Maneco64 here, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So this is a weekend special, a book stream, and I'm also going to talk about some of the silver and gold that I have and what to know a bit about bullion and how to maybe test it as well. I'll just wait a little bit for people to come on. And I've got a few books here that some of them some people have probably seen already. Some of you are new to the channel and they haven't seen it. So I'm going to talk about it, the books that I recommend. Some are new books, some are old ones that have been seen before. Hi, Gerard. I'm well, thank you. I was going to do a video this morning. Good afternoon, John. But I drove my daughter back to university, and it took a little longer than I thought. She's going to do her master's this year. Yeah, so she went back. She'll be back, coming back in December. It's not very far away from where I live, but we had to sort a few things out. The traffic wasn't great. Gold day, everyone. Yeah. Good afternoon, John. Hi, Laura. One thing I like to say, and I'll repeat that when other people come on, is that gold and silver, one test that you can do, it's very easy, is that gold and silver are not magnetic. So I've got one of these, it's like a magnet. You can go online and find a gold, magnet testing for gold. You could buy this. I'm not sure how much it is. So, for example, 2p coin, in the UK, it's stuck, right? So it's stuck. It's magnetic. So that's not gold or silver. But if you take gold and silver, if it's supposed to be a gold or silver coin, a gold bar, and it's sticks like that, it's not gold. So let's take a gold coin here. I've got a 1913 $10. It's a gold eagle. So here it is. It's one of my favorite coins. It's not a numismatic coin, but yeah, it might be considered numismatic, but I bought it for the bullion. So if you go like that, you see it doesn't stick. Doesn't stick. Doesn't stick. So the other coin sticks. So that's one of the easy tests. When am I going to write my book? Well, yeah, maybe I should just do a little bit every day. I've never written a book. Where do you recommend to buy silver? I don't know. Are you in the States? I'm not sure. You just need to Google and find maybe a local coin dealer or someone online that's reputable. That's the best way to do it. So let's do the test with silver. So let's take a nice, so I've got here a 1 ounce maple leaf, Canadian coin. There you go, 1 ounce maple leaf. Hope you can see that. So you see, I'm doing it and it's not magnetic. That's the best test. Of course, there are other tests like jewelers do, where they file the precious metals and they put an acid. And if it turns green, that means it's not gold. Silver is another test with another acid. But that, I don't think you need to do that. Again, it's just finding the most reputable dealer, and you have to shop around. So we're getting more people on here, 41 people so far. You should write a book a little every day. Nobody has written a book until the first. You're right. And, my grammar and my vocabulary and spelling is pretty good, but not perfect. But I watch a lot of YouTube videos too, and a lot of the adverts are for Grammarly, and I install that onto my browser, and it's actually quite good, Grammarly. That should help as well. JM Bullion. So I'm going to show you guys a really special silver bar I got. years ago. I think it was even before, 07 or 08. It was sometime in 2003 and 4. And it has even a special assay number on it, because it's not a very usual, it's quite a, I bought it from one of the precious metals dealer. He usually just does gold, but he had this bar. I'll show it to you, and it says here 2.1 kilos. So you see how it is. It looks quite rough, but it's got the assay number here. Don't know if you can see that, the assay. So it's been assayed. It's 2 kilos. So it's about 64 ounces in this. So there are several ways of buying silver, and I just thought this bar was really interesting. This is a bar I've had for a long time. And then you get smaller bars. You've got, this is a 5 ounce, 5 troy ounces Pan American Silver Corporation. That's a nice bar, 5 ounces. And I've got another nice one that I like. Pawn shops are good as well. Yeah. If you're in the UK, I recommend AtkinsonsBullion.com. This is a ETHEREUM. ETHEREUM, they're a German company. And this is a 250 gram bar of silver. I've kept it wrapped. This one is very nice. This one, I like this one too. So I'm showing the ones I like. And then for UK, I have, yeah, a 100 ounce bar is nice as well. For the UK, one of the best coins to buy, silver coins, is the 1 ounce Britannia. This one here. I bought this in 2011. I think it was when silver was going up. So I bought it, before it went up, when it was going up, and I think at the time it was around $25, $27. Am I concerned about it? No, because I've kept them. So that's the 1 ounce Britannia. So Samantha says, I have a 100 ounce bar of silver. There's also rough. I got a mix of everything. That's right. I think it's the best thing, a mix of everything. No, that 2 kilogram bar is not gold. That would be nice if it was gold. It would be worth quite a bit more than the silver bar. What else have I got here? Oh yeah, gold. I was reading, I always read this book. Where is it? It's The Triumph of Gold by Franz Pick. And he talks about which coins he likes to have, because he thinks if there is a big crisis, prices are going to go up so much that you're going to have small coins. So one of them is a 1/20th of an ounce maple leaf. It's really tiny. This one here, that's a really nice coin. I think I got this one when I asked for delivery from Gold Money. That's what they sent. The other thing that you can get is a little 5 gram bar. This is from Habib Bank in Zurich. So that's a really nice little bar, 5 gram. And then you've got, 1/10th of an ounce Krugerrand. Krugerrands are more known to be an ounce, but they do have 1/10th of an ounce Krugerrands. So these are really good coins to have if there is a crisis, if prices skyrocket, if currencies collapse and you have to barter or buy something. If you go with an ounce of gold, you might get too much change in fiat. So the small ones are good. That's what Franz Pick says. You've also got a 1/4 of an ounce Krugerrand. That's a little more. So what about if you're gonna go into numismatics, which I'm not too much into. I do have a few coins that are collector's coin, and also in the States and a lot of other countries, according to Franz Pick, if they were to confiscate gold bullion, the law says that you can keep your collector's coin. So some people might want to look at numismatics. I'm not saying they should. And I think there's a really good book for you. This is from 2006. So the prices have changed, but the relative value of them, the coins will be the same. So it's this one. It's the official red book. So this is the first book I'm going to recommend. This is it here. The official red book, A Guide of United States Coins, R.S. Yeoman, edited by Kenneth Bressett. This is like the book for people who are into numismatics. So, for example, let's have a look in the book. Oh, they've got all coins going back to colonial times. So, you know, colonial issues. They've got, I think they even got early American related tokens, elephant tokens. They've got Gloucester tokens, so all kinds of American coins. And then they, you know, and then you've got the more modern coins, and they've got the proof and mint sets. So I recommend this book for the American viewers, or even if you are not in the States but you like US coins. And yeah, I guess you can get the 2018 version. Michael Petrowski, he bought 4 250-gram gold. That's good. And 7 kilos of silver. Now buying crypto. Yeah, crypto I think is a good thing to have, because crypto is outside the system. If the system, you know, shuts down for a while, you might not be able to cash in your cryptos, but they will not disappear. But the fiat in the bank might. You could say, you know, Franz Pick and so these are the two books I've seen or looked at already: the Triumph of Gold and the United States Coins book. But Franz Pick says that one of the things they could do, they could revalue the dollar in terms of numbers. They could make $100 be worth one new dollar. So if you have $100 in the bank, becomes worth one, the new dollar. Not sure what the purchasing power will be, but the purchasing power of the gold will stay. The price of gold will be will be, you know, will protect you. They could even do $1,000. They could give you one new dollar. So that's why you need to be outside the system. Precious metals, even cryptos, I would say, is now outside the system. And make sure you keep them in your wallet, not with an exchange. Josh, Mario, do you know how safe it is to save silver in places like Bullion Vault and Gold Money? Well, it's never as safe as having it in your own hands, but they're quite trustworthy. But even having it yourself is not safe. Someone could break into your house. You need to make sure you hide it well. Nothing is 100% safe in life. So yeah, but I would say they're quite reputable, but they've been around for a long time. So let's have a look at a very interesting book. I don't think I've shown you guys this book before. I read it quite a few years ago, and it's a book that's good to read, even though it's about the Rothschilds, the financial rulers of nations. I highly recommend this. It was written in the late 1800s by John Reeves. Yeah, it's quite amazing. You see how they started out. Here's got like a picture, kind of a drawing of the old house in Frankfurt. That's where they started out from in the Jewish ghetto. And their name used to be Bauer, and like a German name, Bauer, Bauer, and they changed it to Red Rothschild. Rothschild in German means red shield, and the reason they did that is because they had a red shield outside the house. So they changed their name. They were coin dealers, and so what does it say here? Let's have a look. So this was written in 1887, and I'll read here the chapter 1. the House of Rothschild. And one of the interesting things, you will see how there's a chapter where they talk about, I thought it was quite kind of perverse, but it's one of the reasons they've kept the money in the family. They become so wealthy. But there was at one point in the 1850s or 60s, one of the Rothschilds, he died, fairly young guy. He was married to a cousin, a woman who was his cousin, and he died. So his father, actually, a Rothschild as well, of course, married the niece. So it's just like that's what they used to do. They used to intermarry, and that's how they've kept a lot of their money in the family. I'm not sure they do that so much nowadays, but they were marrying cousins. Uncles were marrying nieces when their son died. So it was all kept in the family. And I'm not making this up. Am I criticizing them? I'm just telling you what they did. So chapter 1, this is the House of Rothschild. Yeah, it says about the Jews, and not being anti-Semitic. That's what it says in the book. What's in the name? Asks Shakespeare. The answer, when the name is such as Rothschild, is not difficult. There is a volume of meaning in its mere sound. It is a name which conjures up in the imagination visions of untold wealth and unrivaled power, which appears so startling and amazing so as to be more appropriate to romance than life. So the major thing I get about this book is that, you know, they were unimaginably wealthy already in the 1880s. You can imagine how wealthy they're now, you know. And one of the reasons why they're not in the Forbes list and everything is because their wealth is all in trust. So they don't really own anything. They're just beneficiaries, but it's very well protected. So if someone asks Jacob Rothschild, "Oh, how much are you worth?" He'll say, "Not much," and he's being honest, actually. But the trusts that he benefits from are worth probably trillions, because if they were worth billions in the 1880s, you can just work out what they're worth now. Let's have a look here. Yeah, Josh, thanks, Mary. Yesterday, I learned congressmen in the U.S. introduced H.R. 679 bill to end taxation of gold and silver. Yeah, that is, you know, that is good. Hopefully, you know, it will go through. It will help. Maybe, you know, it will help bring digital gold, i.e., you know, gold that can be stored. People can use it as money with debit cards. That could help. In the UK, gold is tax-free, but not silver. But I'm sure people are working to, you know, improve that. What if gold is monetized and silver is not? Uh, I would tend to think if they did monetize gold again, silver would also be. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it probably won't do as well. But if they did monetize silver as well, I think the ratio would fall a lot more, maybe into the teens. But if they don't monetize silver, it would probably fall into the 50s or 40s or maybe 30s. So it would still do well, I think. Tesla 3, what did Rothschild do wrong? In what context is that question, Tesla 3? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on VAT on silver post-Brexit? No. Hopefully they will abolish it. I don't know, because it's a European. I don't know. Don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on it. So what else have we got? I can show you. Well, there's another little bar. It's another Habib bar. It's 10 grams of gold. So that's just under 1/3 of an ounce. I don't know if there's probably new people coming on here. I've been showing people, you know, the silver I've got and some of the bars and coins. If any of you haven't seen this one, this is a really interesting silver bar that I have. It's 2.12 kilos. I don't know if you can see it. And it's even got an assay number, so that means it is silver. The other thing I was telling people, one of the best ways to check precious metals is with a magnet. And you can find these online probably, gold testing magnets. And if it's if it's gold and silver are not magnetic, so that's the simplest test to do. See, it's not sticking to it. But if you take a current penny, you see it sticks. That's 2p in the UK. So that's what I've been talking about as well. So 2 kilos, 2.1 kilos. That's almost 70 ounces in this bar. Someone said earlier, "Oh, I thought that was a gold bar." Yeah, I wish it was. And then there's another interesting coin here. It's a big one. It's a $20 Tuvalu, which is, I think, is in an island in the Pacific. Unfortunately, it has Queen Elizabeth II because she's the queen of Tuvalu. But whatever, it's supposed to be $20, and it's 2 ounces of silver. So is it 2 ounces? Yeah, $20, 2 ounces. There you go. Or it could be 5 ounces. I'm not sure. So that's a nice silver bullion coin. Tesla 3, yeah, the Russians and the Turkish have very little national debts. I think the Russian national debt is maybe in the 20 to 30%. Well, because they don't have, I don't think the bankers are in charge as much as they are in the West. Or maybe they will run that debt up. I don't know. Maybe that's why we're so much against them, because we're not playing their game. MM No, hi MM No, nice to see you. It says silver is a strategic metal, being that way for over 150 years. Yeah, silver is very strategic, especially in times of war. Very necessary metal for weapons and for warfare. So what about books? I've been through a few books. One book that I really like is this one here. It's called Money, and it's by James E. Ewart, E-W-A-R-T. So Money, and it says here, you shall have honest weights and measures. The thing I like about this book, James Ewart, is that it teaches you about currency, about money, because, for example, up until 2000, 2001, I thought money was just a piece of paper. I didn't know the relationship between gold and silver and money, the banknotes, and a lot of people don't. And I think this book does a great job of explaining you about that. I bought it. I think he even time-stamped it here. You see, really, he time-stamped it here, and he signed it. So I bought this December 19th, 2002. This book. So what does it say here about this book? And by the way, I'll put once this live stream is finished, I will put the links. It will be recorded in my YouTube channel, and I'll put try to find links to all these books on Amazon, and I'll put them in the description if you want to try to find them. It says about money. You might consider this a mystery or crime book. It is about money, mostly your money, and about bankers, politicians, and theft by fraud. But because the perpetrators want to keep you in the dark, a clear explanation of their scheme has been hard to find. So this is really interesting. Now, however, Money, which is this book, shows you in considerable amusing detail how the game is played. Here you learn how these people get your money by manipulating voters and the law. Did you know that the fractional reserve banking is today's financial hocus pocus? So, and let me see just some pictures here. So it talks about, the dollar, lawful money, and it talks about legal tender. It talks about bills, notes. It's very good, and it talks about usury. So I highly recommend this book if you can find it. Yeah, it's quite a jam, I would say. James Ewert. Hi, the Daily Rant. Nice to see you here. So today I'm talking about, for those who are still coming on online or on stream, I'm talking about some of the silver coins, silver bars, some of the gold coins I have, some of the tests you can do, like with magnets. Gold and silver are not magnetic. So if you go to a gold dealer, if you do have a magnet, you can find these online. Gold, precious metals testing magnets. They shouldn't be worth that much. But if you take one of these and the coin gets stuck to the magnet, that means forget it. So you can see here, that doesn't get stuck. But you take a 2p coin from the UK, see, that gets stuck. But you get a sovereign, it doesn't get stuck. So that's the best, easiest way. Does it mean that it's kosher, so to speak, if it passes the magnetic test? No, not necessarily. I would say that greetings, Paul. Oh, hi, Paul. Nice to see you. I would say that the best thing to do is to try to find a reputable dealer. And then there's let's have a look at this is a 2007. I think this is the first year they started. It's the first 999 bullion coin that the U.S. Mint ever minted. Is a gold buffalo. I think that I heard there's a shortage of these right now, and it's one of my favorite coins. And I do have it in a little plastic case, but I've taken it out just to show it to you. It's a beautiful coin. It's got a buffalo in the back, buffalo here, and then the Indian head. So the thing about 999, that means it's pure gold. So you need to really be careful with it, because if you drop it, it will dent very easily. It's very soft. And then on the other hand, you've got this is the 20. This is a double eagle from 1877. And it's also a Carson City double eagle. So it has a little bit of numismatic value. It's worth more than just a bullion. And the thing about this used to circulate as money. It's $20. So it's 90% gold, 10% copper. So it's much sturdier. So yeah, this coin, it's got CC here, Carson City. I don't know if you can see it. That used to be a mint. I don't think it's around anymore. Carson City, Nevada, I think. So these are, for some reason, quite rare. And as I said earlier, one good way to find out about U.S. coins is this book. Even though it's from 06, you can still find the relative values. I know the prices have changed, but it's the United States Coins by Yeoman. That's like the Bible for numismatists. I'm not a numismatist, but I do have some numismatic coins. So yeah, so that's completely different, of course, from the buffalo, because the buffalo is 999. Hi, Labuk 84. Nice to see you here. Pre-1933. Yeah. Let's see if we got any question. No, Danny, tungsten is not magnetic, I don't think. And that's why they've gotten away with it. Or it might be magnetic, but what they've done is they put they played it with gold, right? Because tungsten has the same specific, has the same density as gold, so it feels the same. But what they do is they coat it with a little strip of gold. So but I think it is magnetic. You'd have to cut the bar or and then yeah, if it's magnetic, then it will fail the test. Who's the deep state? Well, I think the deep state is the the wealthiest people in the world who control through the tax-free foundations. They control the government. They control how can I say, the think tanks that advise governments. They control people like the Council on Foreign Relations. They endow all the universities, and they're all tax-free foundations, like the Carnegie Endowment for Peace. They actually promote war. The Rockefeller Foundations, all the tax-free charitable foundations that people think do a lot of good, they actually use those to. There might be some that are good, but that's how they can. That's who I think the deep state is, and that's how they do it. Northwest Prepper 6. Oh, you're welcome, Northwest Prepper. So, Adam Anderson, Israel Mossad. Is that, you mean the deep state? Well, I don't know. They're probably intertwined. The same people that control the deep state in the US control it in Israel, control it in Europe. So it's all, they don't really think in terms of nationality. They're international, I think. Good day from Jake Jones. Hey, Jake Jones, how you doing? Waiting for the super typhoon. Yeah, I heard in the car, because I was telling people I was going to do a video this morning, but I drove my daughter back to university. She graduated this summer, but she's going to do one more year for her master's, and it took a little longer. But I heard on the radio there it hit the Philippines. I think the typhoon was pretty bad. Forgot the name of it. MM No says 97 watching, only 18 likes. Oh, interesting. Danny Djokovic, the only king to escape with his gold from the Bolsheviks was the great King Zog of Albania. Interesting. I mean, I think the Tsar Nicholas had a lot of gold in Russia, but he had a lot of gold with banks in Paris, London, and New York. And and then they murdered his whole family, so there's no one claiming that gold. And a lot of people argue that that was the money that was used to pump up the 19, the Roaring 20s, because they had a lot of money that they could use. Yeah, Mumu, I would say Bush and Soros are kind of, they're not at the top. They're like, they work for the people in the deep state. Maybe some people even argue the Rothschilds, they're not at the top. They're agents of someone else. What else in terms of gold? Oh yeah, I wanted to show, where is it? I've got a Brazilian gold coin from 1856. So even Brazil had sound money, and I think they had silver coins then. But you look at, and that's got Emperor Peter II, Dom Pedro II. Brazil became independent in 1822. Basically, the independence was one part of the family took over, Brazil, and the Brazil was like a monarch empire from 1822 to 1889. And actually, Peter II was a pretty good monarch. I know a lot of people don't like monarchies, but he did a lot of good for Brazil. I think Brazil probably was in better shape back then. He brought the railroads to Brazil in the 1860s, 1850s. So he wasn't a bad, how can I say, emperor. I don't know that much more about him, but I think in 1889 they were deposed and Brazil became a republic. And since then the money has been debased even more. And then I've got another one here. I think it's about half an ounce, and it's an Iranian coin with the Shah of Iran. So that's very interesting. There you go. I'm not sure what year it is. It's definitely before 1979, because in 1979 there's the Iranian Revolution, and he was deposed. I think he fled to Panama or somewhere. The thing about all these different coins that we see from different parts of the world is that it just goes to show how universal gold is. It's really money everywhere, and it's still worth something today. But the paper money is just like a joke. Northwest Prepper 6, question on bullion. I buy an assortment of gold coins from 999 bullion to 90% old French Dutch coins. In your opinion, are the old French Dutch coins a good form of bullion? Yeah, definitely. I've got some French and Dutch coins as well. The 20 guilder coins, they're really nice. And I got some French coins as well. I don't have them here. Oh, I do have one here, which is actually it's a Napoleon coin, because that's the other thing about coins. We learn a lot about history, because I've got a 1812 coin here. It says Napoleone Imperatore, Emperor and King, and it says Kingdom of Italy. So a lot of people don't know. I think Napoleon ruled over northern Italy for a few years. So there's a 40 franc gold coin. There's his head, Napoleon, and you can see here Italy. So yeah, before I got this coin, I didn't realize that Napoleon was king and emperor of Italy for a few years. But it wasn't the whole of Italy. It was like the northern part of Italy. So yeah, it doesn't really matter where the coins are from. Danny Djokovic says Napoleon was of Albanian heritage. I didn't know that. I know that he was Corsican, which is an island on the coast of France, which is part of France, of course. So what else? I'll show. Oh, and I went to Paris some years ago, and I went into the Monnaie de Paris, which is the Paris Mint, and I got like a collector's coin. It's a gold coin. So there you go, Monnaie de Paris. And I think when did I go? I think it was maybe in 2004 or 5. I went with my wife to Paris. She was a bit bored. We went to it's like a museum. It's really nice. And I got this coin here. Again, it's got Napoleon on it. And it says it's the bicentenary of the Germinal franc. And it's got a Napoleon on the back. Yeah, it's from 2003. So there you go. That's a numismatic coin. Don't really know how much it's worth now, but and I've got here also in the box. That's important to keep. If you, thanks, Jake. If you do buy numismatic coins, you see that a lot of times you get these kinds of, the description of the coin. I recommend you keep that. So that coin that I got was the number 2, actually. So there you go. That was the second one that was minted. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it. It says 2. So what does it say? It says face value 10 euros, gold content 920. So it's 92% gold. Weight is 8.45 grams. So bicentennial of the franc Germinal. I think Germinal was an old coin that Napoleon must have minted. No, Napoleon ended the Pope's corporeal power, the power of life and death over common people. At least Napoleon did something right. Yeah, there's a lot of people who, my brother-in-law, he's Swiss, and Napoleon, I think he invaded Switzerland and he ran Switzerland for a while. And I didn't know this. My brother-in-law was telling me that before Napoleon, you didn't have names for streets or numbers or post post offices, and that's one of the things that he started throughout Europe. So he did things that were good, but I'm not a specialist in Napoleon. What else? Well, one thing that I think when he was crowned emperor of France, the Pope was there, and the story is that the Pope was going to place the crown on his head, and he actually took it from the Pope and put it on himself, which corresponds to what No says. Yeah, he was Corsican Napoleon. What else have we got? Let's go to a book now. This is a really interesting book, Illegal Tender. There you go. Gold, Greed, and the Mystery of the Lost 1933 Double Eagle. So the thing about this book, it's like a mystery book. It's like a crime book. And it has a bit of the monetary history involved in it. And that's why I like it so much. The reason it's significant, the 1933, is that FDR, made gold illegal in 1933. But some people at the Philadelphia Mint didn't get the message, right? Bureaucracies, they never work really well. And they minted 1933 double eagles, which were not supposed to be minted. And some people got a hold of it because they knew it would become valuable, and highly recommend it. I'll read a little bit here in the back. It says, Illegal Tender is an excellent read. The first book I've ever read where the protagonist is a coin, the 1933 Double Eagle. It's a first-rate adventure story, and I was instantly hooked. Anyone who has a kid dug for treasure in anyone as a kid dug for treasure in his backyard will love this book. It made me want to get my metal detector out. Dazzling story, Trip compellingly unravels the mystery behind the rarest of rare coins, entertaining and illuminating. So yeah, this is a really good book. It mixes, gold, money, adventure, mystique, or not mystique, intrigue. So let's see, we've got 93 people, not so many people at the moment, but we'll keep going. Hi, Gizgrow you. Nice to see you. Silver kangaroos look nice. Let's see, I think I've got some, have I got silver kangaroo? Oh yeah, I've got one here. It's a 1 ounce. $1, they call it a $1. It's an Australian. Is that the one you mean? With the kangaroos. Can you see the kangaroos? I don't know. So that's a 1 ounce silver kangaroo. I've got a 1 ounce panda, Chinese. That's a really nice coin as well with the panda. They do nice coins, the Chinese, you have to admit. And this is an Australian, 2 ounces of silver, and it's Year of the Pig, 2007. So they do a lot of these Chinese ear, the Australian mint. I guess it's the Perth mint. Did you know the Perth mint used to be the one of the royal mints when Australia was still part of the British Empire? Royal comment, yeah, 1 gram, 199 coins. I haven't seen the one maple grams. That's interesting. There's also like they look like credit cards. And you can take them out. They're little cubes, little squares of 1 gram gold. Jake, I was also I don't know if you've seen this one. This is 1/20th of an ounce maple leaf. That's really convenient as well. American expat. maneco64, why are derivatives considered a bomb? Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it's because derivatives are kept, there's a few points. One of them is that they're kept off balance sheet, right? So they don't have to be accounted for. Second one is that when you buy derivatives, let's say on gold, if you buy one gold future, it controls 100 ounces, but you only have to put 5% down, so you can leverage a lot. That's right, Michael Cross. And then there's two kinds of derivatives. One is not as risky as the other. The exchange traded derivatives, even though they're off balance sheet, they're public, so people know how many have been issued. You know, the commitment of trader reports come out, so people have an idea of how much of that stuff is out there. But the other ones are over-the-counter derivatives. These are derivatives contracts just agreed upon by mainly the major international banks, you know, the Goldman Sachs, the JP Morgans, the Deutsche Banks, and these are just done over the phone. They say, you know, you could be a fund manager, and you call Goldman Sachs, Mr. Sachs, can you write me a contract? And he will, and it's off balance sheet, and you can leverage to as much as you want. I recommend, you know, recommend you watch The Big Short. And it shows, you know, Michael Berry, who is the main character in that movie. He wants to short the housing market, and there's no instrument or security to do that. So what does he do? He goes from I think he lived in California. He goes to Manhattan, and he knocks at the door of all these banks, and they write a derivative for him, the famous, you know, credit default swaps on mortgage-backed securities. So that's what derivatives are. The problem with them is that, let's say, they abuse it. The bankers and the speculators abuse it. It's like an insurance, but they bet more than the, you know, and it's always on an underlying asset or commodity. The problem is it grows so much that the derivatives are worth many times over the underlying asset or commodity. And when that happens, and there's a lot of leverage, it's a cocktail for disaster. It's like, you know, if you insured, if your neighbor came to you and said, "Can you insure my house, you know, for fire?" And you say, "Fine, you know, I'll insure it. Your house is worth 100. Let's say $1 million, I'll insure it for you for fire." And then all the other neighbors come. Can I, you know, can I insure that house as well? Can I buy some, you know, can I do a derivatives on that? So you've got everyone in the street doing the same trade on one house. So if that house goes, how are you going to pay, you know, 50 different people? And they haven't changed it. They're still out there, these derivatives. And and it's now spreading to Main Street. You know, a lot of these ETFs are basically allowing, you know, John Doe and Jane Smith or whoever, you know, the common investor, to actually play this game, and it's very dangerous. It is a bomb. Swaps is just a name for a derivative. That's all. You know, it's just like swapping. It's just like, it's not, it's just a technical term where you swap one thing for another, but they can't call it selling because it's off balance sheet and it hasn't been realized. So they use the term swap. So yeah, just think of swap, you know, you're swapping your dollar, your fiat dollar for an ounce of gold. But you don't call it a swap because you sell, you know, you buy the gold and you sell the dollars. But when it's a derivative, they just call it a swap. So that's why. And the other thing is that derivatives have what they call a notional amount. So if you buy one gold future, even though you just put $5,000 down, or I don't know how much it is now, you're actually controlling 100 ounces, which is like $120,000. So that's the notional amount. So the notional amount of derivatives before the '08 crisis was over $1 quadrillion. That's over 1,000 trillion. And then they changed the accounting for it after the crisis. The Bank for International Settlements changed the accounting, and apparently there's only 700 trillion. And I say only 700 trillion, but it's more like a quadrillion. So I think the world economy is like $70 trillion, but the notional amount of derivatives is like more, probably 20 times the world economy. So if you've got like a problem with derivatives and people start losing money with them, it could start a daisy chain. The other thing as well is if the counterparty fails, you will be liable for the whole notional amount. There are like five. Mary, do you think that most market analysts, advisors understand the digital control technology behind global asset pricing? How could this impact their analysis? I think they do. I mean, Goldman Sachs, apparently they've gotten rid of a lot of their traders. But I think it's a double-edged sword. It could, if there is a crisis, the liquidity could dry up. And I think that's why we had that flash crash in the stock market. I think it was, I don't remember what year it was. That's what will happen. I think everyone knows the Deutsche Bank is insolvent. So I don't know what will happen. They're just keeping it alive for now. So let's have a look at another book. Oh yeah, one book I read many years ago, and I read this book even before I kind of got involved in with precious metals, and I learned about the monetary system. So I read this book like in the probably late 80s, early 90s. So it's an old book, and it's a big book. It's over 700 pages. The House of Morgan by Ron Chernow. He's written a lot of interesting books, this guy. It says, The Secret History of Money and Power. I highly recommend this. It talks all about, you know, how JP Morgan, the bank, started. And the most interesting thing about this book is that JP Morgan, really, if you look at the, if you read the book and you look at the history of it, JP Morgan is not really an American bank. Well, it's partly American, but it was actually started out in London. That's why they're still, you know, really important part of the city. And it says here, the House of Morgan is a rich saga of the Anglo-American banking dynasty that superseded Barings and the Rothschilds to become the dominant financial empire of the 20th century. With the sweep of an epic novel, it covers 150 years tracing the Morgan Empire from the Keynesian beginnings in Victorian London to the summit of world finance through 4 generations of Morgans. So some people actually speculate that the Rothschilds used the Morgans to infiltrate the American markets, because back in the late 1800s, it was difficult for you know, Jewish bankers to go into New York. So as JP Morgan was in London and Rothschilds were in London, they got together, and a lot. Some people argue that a lot of the JP Morgan money was Rothschild money. And it's interesting because when JP Morgan died, I think in the early 1900s, he had you know, his will, you know, his inheritance that he left for his family wasn't that big. They thought he was the richest man in America. He wasn't that rich. So it just goes to show. And the other thing about Morgan is that I think it was one of the original, I think JP Morgan's father, Junius Morgan, he came to work for a guy called George Peabody in London. And George Peabody was already very active in London in banking. And he didn't have any heirs, no family. And when he died, he left the business to the Morgans. So that's another interesting aspect. And George Peabody, he might have been a banker, but he left a lot of his wealth. There's the Peabody Foundation. It's still around in London, and they actually provide subsidized housing for poorer people. So yeah, bankers can do nice things, and George Peabody did. Did the Morgans do? I don't think so. Derelict, thank you for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. It's most welcome. No, my cheerleader says, "Come on, guys, give Mario a thumbs up and share this video with all your friends." So yeah, I recommend this book. I know people don't like J.P. Morgan. I don't like them, but it's good to understand your enemy, and it just shows you, what it's all about. How they started, and why they're have a presence in London. They basically started in London. Okay, let's also look at if you're going to buy gold coins or silver coins. The other thing I recommend is to get a little scale or a bigger scale. I've got this scale here. You open it and you turn it on, and you can put it in ounces or grams, and you just put a coin on it. Like for example, the sovereign is supposed to be 8 grams. So if I turn this on, and I'll put it on there and see if I can show it to you. If I put it on and it says 8 grams to precious metals, a scale. KVJ says Jesse Livermore supposedly died poor, but maybe he planned cleverly. Jim Sinclair. Jim Sinclair's father was a friend of Jesse Livermore, and Jim Sinclair says that Jesse Livermore's family, they weren't poor after he died. I think he did lose huge fortunes many times over, but I think one thing he did is that he left his family. He put a lot of money in trust for his family, so they were okay. So I don't think maybe he was relatively poor, but he wasn't poor, Jesse Livermore. But I think reading about Jesse Livermore, and I haven't got his book here today, but I recommend it. Where is it? Yeah, I'll recommend it in the next video. But I think the thing about Jesse Livermore that people need to read it is that it shows that trading is not an easy game. Trading is a full-time business, and even the best have a really difficult time, and that was Jesse Livermore. So that's why I don't like to tell people that it's easy. And if you have a full-time job doing something completely different, stick to your job. Don't trade. And that's why, gold and silver are just savings. They're money. Am I saying you shouldn't trade? No, but just be aware it is hard. What's American expats doing? Deutsche Bank is like Tesla. There is no profit. Yeah, I mean, we've known for many years, for 3-4 years, we've been talking about Deutsche Bank, but it's still going. I think just the ECB took over it, and they must just be pumping money in it to keep it going. So that's all I can say about that. All right. And any other interesting coin here? Yeah. Oh, this is an interesting one. It's a Mexican coin. Don't know if there are any Mexicans on the live stream. And it's 1.2 ounces, so it's a big coin. It's it's a 50 pesos coin. It's a beautiful coin. It's not numismatic, it's bullion. I think I bought it from a jeweler in the city of London that I used to buy some gold from, and he was a good dealer. He did jewelry, but also gold coins. And it's a beautiful coin. It says Estados Unidos de Mexico, United States of Mexico. And it's a 50 pesos, and it's 37.5 grams of, well, it's not 999, but it says on it here, engraved, it says that it's 37.5 grams of pure gold in this coin. It's one of my favorites. It's the only one I have. Mexican. Okay. George Gonzalez. Hi, Maya. Would you explain liquidity? Where does it come from? What drives it up? Well, liquidity is just like, let's say if you go to buy, a stock, let's say IBM, and the price is $100.20. There's the bid. Someone's bidding for 1,000 shares, and someone's offering 1,000 shares at $100.21. So, but let's say, and then you go the next day and you ask for the same quote, and it's quoted $100.01, and the offer is at $100 and $102. So liquidity means that it's very expensive. There's a big difference between the bid and ask, and there's very little volume. The specialists that make a market in these securities or stock or anything, they're scared because the market is so volatile. So they're not willing to make a market. So it's more extent. There's a wide market. That's what liquidity is. It usually dries up when things get uncertain. When there's low volatility, there's a lot of liquidity because the markets aren't moving. So let's say in terms of gold, the gold futures, for example, if you call your futures broker and it's 1201.20 bid for 5,000 and 1201.30 offered for 5,000. That's a highly liquid market. But then if you have a day where gold is really volatile, it might be 1201 bid at 1205 in one lot. And what happens as well when there's no liquidity or no money to deal, so you might call a broker because not all securities are traded on exchanges. You might call a broker to get a price on a corporate bond. And if the market is all over the place, if there's a crisis, they won't even make a market on it. So that means you can't sell that bond. The previous day it was quoted at par or 100, and today you can't sell it. There's no liquidity. So that's what it is, liquidity. I hope that explains it to you, George. Yeah, these nuts, it's good to get a testing kit if you can. For $9.99, that's good value. So I hope you understood that, George. Gur Olgi, hey Gur, nice to see you. Norwegian mainstream media is warning every day now the next financial crisis will be much worse than 08. Yeah, and a few of my viewers, and I thank them, they sent me a link. There's a story on Sky News about that as well, so they're starting to talk about it. We'll see. Jonathan, hi Mario, from Trinidad and Tobago. Have you seen interest growing in British silver coins pre-1919 over there in the UK? Not really. I mean, I personally have been buying a few of those because I like them, but I can't say that I follow it that closely to know that. But they are good coins to buy, the pre-1919. If you can find a lot of them, like they call them junk silver, the good thing about them, as they're legal tender, or as they were circulating coins, there's no VAT on it. And I know that there's ways around buying silver without paying VAT in the UK, but I think they're good ones to get. HSBC is a British bank. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think they were HSBC. They were huge, when they call them the opium bank as well. And it's no surprise that they were fined by the U.S. Department of Justice for dealing with Mexican drug lords. They've been doing it for hundreds of years, I think, and they started with the opium trade in Hong Kong. Hi, Susan. Nice to see you. Ilaria Portella. Hi, Ilaria. I think I'm just gonna go open the door. Billy wants to go out in the garden. 1 second. Come on, Billy. Billy wanted to go out. So for those of you who are coming on right now, today I've talked about some of the silver bars and silver coins I have, some of the books as well that I've recommended. I'll show you, for those of you who haven't seen this, it's a really interesting it's 2.12 kilos of silver. It's a silver bar. I don't know if you can see that there. And it's got a special assay. So it doesn't even have, it's not, it doesn't have like a mint mark or anything, but I bought it from a gold dealer in London. And yeah, so that's about almost 70 ounces of silver. It's an old one. I bought it probably back in 2003 or 4. Silver. Mumu, what are your favorite precious metal shops in the UK? Well, in London, I used to like John Haynes. He was a jeweler in the city of London. Unfortunately, he closed down a few years ago. He was near Cornhill in the city. There's also Gold Investments. That's in Leadenhall Market. He's been there since 1980, so he's very reputable. And my favorite one online is AtkinsonsBullion.com. Yeah, so those are the 3. Well, one of them is not in business anymore. And I guess Bullion by Post, I haven't used them, but they seem to be okay. Alabama in the US just eliminated sales tax on precious metals. Yeah, I think a lot of the states are doing that. That's a good sign. Yeah, that's good. That means there's a better chance of gold being money again. And I think, you know, I've spoken about this card before. It's called Glint. It's like basically, it's only available in the EU right now. So they store their gold in Switzerland. And with that card, you can spend the gold directly. Gold money, you have to like sell the gold into fiat. This one, you can spend it right away. So that helps. Maybe something will happen in the US in terms of they're not available in the US yet, Glint. So you're welcome, Ty. Bullion by Post, very good. Yeah, they look pretty reputable. The reason I haven't used them is because I already use other people. Hi, Red Snapper. Nice to see you. Let's see another. Oh, there's another. This is a $5 coin. So I guess it's a half eagle. And it's from 1899. So that's what $5 used to look like. 18. So this is used to be a circulating coin. So $5. That's probably about 1/4 of an ounce of gold, and just under 1/4, and it's 90% gold, 10% copper. Okay, another book. This is a really good book. Tower of Basel. Some of you might have seen it already. Some of you who are new to the channel haven't. But thanks, Derelict 5, for the super chat. Thanks again. So the shadowy history of the secret bank that runs the world, and I agree with that, is the central bank's bank in Basel, Switzerland. So I highly recommend you read this book, and it will show you why all these wars is just a game. And it might sound offensive to say that wars are a game because people die. But unfortunately, it is. For these people, the bankers, you know, they finance both sides so that if one side loses, they don't lose. They hedge themselves. And that's what they did. They do it from Basel, Switzerland. And the Norwegian government wanted to close that bank down after World War II during the Bretton Woods Conference. And it was John Maynard Keynes, the British delegate, Lord Keynes, of Keynesian economics fame that said, no, we have to keep this bank going. So I highly recommend this book. What does it say here? Liaquat Ahmed, author of Lords of Finance, he says Adam Labor has written an absolutely fascinating history of the BIS, perhaps the most enigmatic financial institution in the world. The story he unveils of the many skeletons in its closet and its astounding ability to remake itself periodically only adds to its mystique. Well, now they market themselves as a regulator, as like a trying to help stability, but they're far away from that. They're just like bad news. They run the world. Thank you, Susan, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, Red Snapper. I'll I'll try to edit that. Gur Oji, only way to win over the elite is not to offer a thought to them, not even bad thoughts. They thrive on them. Yeah, I agree. Ignore them. Don't play their game, and like don't let them get you down. Just live your own life. I think is that what you mean? I think so. So let's have a look. Another coin. Oh, yeah, just again, gold and silver are not magnetic. So if you have a magnet, you can test gold and silver. So the other book, another book, this was recommended by Jim Sinclair. It's called Our Crowd, The Great Jewish Families of New York. Another book that I recommend. It just goes to show how intertwined all these big banks are, and like there's no such thing as an American bank or a French bank or a German bank or a British bank. It's all run by these families. Yeah, I highly recommend that. It's by Stephen Birmingham, Our Crowd. No, it wouldn't be magnetic. No, gold is even the 90% gold coins won't. You see here, it doesn't. Even 9-carat gold jewelry, if you test it, it doesn't stick. Yeah, copper is not magnetic, but like the 2p coin doesn't have any copper anymore, so it is magnetic. I don't think it's had copper for many years. I have spoken about the U.S. Mint suspending, mintage of silver. I guess it's probably because there's a shortage of silver, physical silver, or not maybe a shortage, but the market is tight. So they've been told probably by the U.S. Treasury and the Fed not to buy any physical silver. Well, I didn't know Susan, that about copper, but I guess it makes sense because a lot of the gold coins and jewelry have copper in them. Let's go on another book. Gold Wars, The Battle Against Sound Money as Seen from a Swiss Perspective. It's one of my favorites as well, by Ferdinand Lips. Very good book. Ferdinand Lips, I think he used to work for the Rothschild Bank in Switzerland, and then he started his own bank, but he was a gold bug. in the time of when he wrote this book, Switzerland had just sold half of its gold, so he wasn't very happy about it. And he talks about how gold and economic freedom are like go hand in hand, because governments, when countries are on a gold standard, they have a limitation to how much money they can print and how much money they can spend. And the less money they can spend and print, they won't be able to buy as many votes. Government won't be able to get as big as it is. Chinese movie Empire of Silver mirrors European banking family. Yeah, it's interesting because the Chinese were always more into silver, and the Europeans were more into gold. And that's how the Venetians made a lot of money. They used to trade with the Chinese, and they used to, they used to trade gold and silver between the two cultures, and they made a lot of. They became very wealthy from that because there's more demand for silver in Asia, so the silver, and no more demand for gold in Europe. So the Venetians exploited that difference. They arbitraged the market, and they did very well from that from that fact. Actually, I haven't. I have that book. I have read some of it, Peter. A History of Money and Banking in the United States. Yeah, it's a good. Murray Rothbard. I recommend his books. Mario, Susan asked, Mario, what percentage of regular people do you think are collecting silver and gold? Very small percentage. I couldn't say exactly, but I would think more like 1%. I mean, even less. There's not many people out there into gold and silver. Yes, Jake, I do have a Russian coin. Let me get it here. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's from 1899. It's got Nicholas II in the back. Let's have a look. Yeah, 1899. It's 10 rubles. There you go. And there's the Tsar Nicholas II. I think the Russians, they were on 90% as well. 90% gold, if I'm not mistaken. I guess, the countries that were part of the British Empire, they were on 22 karat gold, or 916. And the countries that were under the American influence, or on 90%. Gur OG says, paper money doesn't exist for me anymore. I only have enough food, coffee, tobacco in the bank. That's it. Rest goes to gold and silver. Same here. I keep just enough to pay the bills in the fiat bank. XW Max. Hey, Mario, during a financial crisis, do you think people would treat silver and gold bullion different from silver and gold rounds? Well, first of all, rounds are just coins that can't be coins because they're usually minted by private mints, and everything else are coins, and they can be bullion or they can be collector's coins. Yeah, I think maybe, but they would both be accepted. But I think maybe the national country coins or the not rounds would maybe have a slight premium to them. But people would still. I would accept silver and gold rounds. I would accept a gold nugget. So, but you might get a better premium from the official, so to speak, coins or bullion. Lord Humongous is here. from Lotola of Rock and Rolla, Colorado. Yeah. Pavel Krastov. Mary, what are your thoughts on the crypto market? You think it will be a few more months of bear market? You think Bitcoin will go as low as 4,000? If I had to bet on it, I don't think it will go back to 4,000. It could be a few more months. It's difficult, really tough to say. I think right now it needs to get up above 8,000. That's the key resistance. Cyrus, Cyrus, look at all those flags. Yeah, I know. I have the Canadian, American, and British. And someone said, "What Someone said, "What about all the other countries?" So I decided to get that one. So to placate, people all over the world. That's more of a multinational flag. Pavel, you're welcome. So what about the last book I've got here? Mumu, if precious metals confiscation was ever enacted again, which safer? Well, the safest coin, because silver I don't think would be confiscated, but gold, the safest coins to have that legally can't be confiscated are the numismatic coins or collector's coins. The thing to do, some of them have a huge premium. The thing to do is to buy some that are not too collectible, but are collectible coins. They would be safe. Alex G, where do you see the bottom in silver? Again, tough to say. Hopefully, we have bottom. Recently, I think gold right now looks like it's bottom at 1360. So not 1360, 1160. But silver made a bottom. I think just recently, the gold bottom was in the middle of August. Susan Chapel, yeah. It's short and long is just a futures tech terminology. You go long a futures contract. That means you have the right to buy something in the future. So if you're long, you have a buying position, and if you go short, it means that you have the right to sell something in the future. So you shorted the market. You've sold something, and it's not something you have. So you go short something you don't have in the futures market. That's why it's not called a sell, it's a short. So one of the other books I wanted to talk about is by Eustace Mullins. I highly recommend Eustace Mullins. He died a few years ago, but he was a friend of Ezra Pound. And Ezra Pound was a poet, American poet in the early 1900s, and he was against all the wars, so he was put in an insane asylum. They kept him basically in prison without any charge. And Ezra Pound told the young Eustace Mullins in the late 40s, early 50s, to look into the Federal Reserve, to go to the Library of Congress and investigate the Federal Reserve. And he found a lot of information about the Federal Reserve and also the people who run the Federal Reserve. And this is one of my favorite books, The World Order, Our Secret Rulers, by Eustace Mullins. I highly recommend it. I think you can find it quite easily on the internet. And Eustace Mullins, of course, he was considered, right-wing, anti-Semitic. They gave him all these labels, but he just unearthed the truth about the Federal Reserve. And they called him a racist and everything, but highly recommend that book, The World Order. Jake Jones, yeah, I think he did. I don't know if he plagiarized them completely, but the original guy who uncovered the Federal Reserve was Eustace Mullins. I do have The Creature from Jekyll Island. I'm not sure if he used footnotes, to, reference Eustace Mullins. If he didn't, that's not a good thing. But I think, what's his name? I've seen interviews where Eustace Mullins says that people have, and he doesn't like actually name Edward Griffin, but I think he has. Yeah, he says, yeah, some people have copied my book and they've given it Monster's name. He didn't actually, mention the name of the book because I think he didn't want people to know about the name of the book. So what else have we got here? Oh yeah, I've got some 1 ounce. They're called 1 ounce silver Liberty, and they've got buffalo on the back, United States of America, and God We Trust. These are nice 1 ounce bars, silver bars, and they got the Indian head or a Native American head, if you want to be politically correct, on the back. I think I got these from Gold Money. I think I asked for delivery, some of the silver. This is what they sent. All-time high silver was about $21 for me. I'll start stacking. I starting March 2017 for silver. Could be 1,000 or $1. Couldn't care less. Didn't exist for me. Well, the other coins I like in terms of silver, and I think it would, especially for Americans, this could come in handy if there is some kind of event, monetary event, are the 1964 and pre-1964 quarters. They're 90% silver. Really nice. So I've got here 64. I have some, not just 64s, but I have some other ones. And I bought a lot of these on eBay, some from a dealer here in London. I mean, you can get good coins on eBay. Just make sure you have a reputable seller on eBay, that he's got a good rating. Pavel Krastov, Mario, what is an acceptable amount of silver to have? Just wondering, I started stacking this year. Well, I tell people that it's like savings. You decide how much you want to save. You know, just save as a reasonable amount. Everyone has different circumstance. Lord Humongous, what do you think of JP Morgan is doing with silver right now? Well, yeah, there's been a lot of speculation over the years what they've been doing with silver, that they have a huge position. But it could be for someone else, because JP Morgan, they deal for thousands of counterparties. But I think it's the first time in 24 years that the commercials, who include the bullion banks, it's the first time they've been long the silver futures. So I don't know. I mean, it's frustrating, I know, and it's really difficult to time these things to say. I think it was Big Swear said that last Friday, not this Friday, but the Friday before, that silver was going to explode and nothing happened. So, but it's definitely getting to a point where everything is pointing to higher prices. But like yesterday was frustrating watching gold. It was doing fairly well early on, and then again it failed and it dropped below 1,200. But yeah. Sac Media, don't be sorry. That's fine. I'm still here. So, District of Columbia is treason. I tell most people to try and aim for 100 ounces per body in the household. Yeah, that's a good thing to do for silver. And it all and depends, on your circumstances as well. But maybe have enough silver that you think you can survive on for 3 months. Because usually, hyperinflations and things like that, they don't last for that long. There is a crisis and stuff, but then things pick up again. So it's not like you have to have silver to survive for 3 years, but at least 3 to 6 months, and that depends on your your style of living. Yeah, Mumu, I'm not sure if the JP Morgan stack is real. You can't really tell. Susan Chappell's right. A lot of people even have to borrow money to make ends meet. Now and then you'd hear a clank tossing change in the register. Pavel, my goal is to speculate on crypto and convert my gains to precious metals. Yeah, I look at cryptos more as a speculation. It gives, it's risky. That's why I don't have that much in it. And yeah, that's a good strategy, Pavel. Yeah, that's the nice thing about silver. Like if you compare them to the present day, uh, coins, copper nickel coins, the clinky sound is really nice. So it's almost like in those Western movies. You see John Wayne coming into the saloon with a quarter or a $half, and puts it down on the bar and says, I'll have a drink," and you can hear the clanky. Um, it's completely different from today's fake coins. So yeah, the books. Tristan says is mining ether and converting it to silver and gold. I'm not clever enough to mine these things. The only thing that I've been mining indirectly is Steam, because I post my videos on Steam and I get paid Steam. So, but the price of Steam has come off quite a bit, but it's I don't really care because it fluctuates a lot. I think it will go back up. So yeah, not so many people today. 109 only so far here, but I'll keep going for a bit longer because I haven't made a video today. I was busy most of the day this morning, so I decided to, instead of doing a video, I'll do a live stream, and I'll probably make a video tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow morning I won't be around. Yeah, Pavel says, I'm only putting enough into crypto that I'm willing to lose. That's right. Rethinking the dollars here. Hey, Mike, how are you doing? Things are great, Mike. Thank you. And you? Hope everything's good with you. Yeah, Mike, I've been showing people some of my silver coins and silver bars. One interesting bar I got is 2.12 kilos of silver. It's not from any mint. It's just like, I think it was assayed. You've got the special assay here. And I bought it in London from a dealer, gold dealer. He usually doesn't do silver, but he had this one. And you can see the holes here. I think that's when they assayed it. You see, they drill to test. So one hole here, one hole here. So 2.1 kilos, that's about almost 70 ounces of silver in this bar. Kevin Johnson, what book did I miss? Well, you missed a few. The last one I did was this one, The World Order by Eustace Mullins, one of my favorite authors, Eustace Mullins. Gold Wars by Ferdinand Lips. Our Crowd by Stephen Birmingham. It's about the banking families of New York, great Jewish families of New York, banking. The book about the BIS that everyone should read, really. It should be in every school, but it won't be. If it was, there would be a revolution pretty soon. The BIS, Tower of Basel by Adam Labor. It just goes to show that the bankers, they finance both sides of wars, and they're still around. That's why all this thing about war with China and Russia is probably just a game for these guys. They make it seem like the West and Russia are like hate each other, the governments, but they're probably actually playing exactly. They're playing they're playing it's like theater. The other one. Kevin, is this one. I read this like in the 80s, The House of Morgan by Ron Chernow. Really, it's a big book, but it's really interesting. It talks about, the power of the Morgans and the JP Morgans. And I said, of course, that there is speculation that a lot of the JP Morgan money actually came from the Rothschilds. And this book basically talks about how JP Morgan Bank actually started from London. So it does make sense. Hi, Andrew. Andrew heard the U.S. Treasury stopped selling Silver Eagles 6th of September. Yeah, they stopped selling it. I think it's because they've been told not to buy silver. I guess they have run out because they're not buying the physical silver to mint the coins. Constitutionally, by the law, they should be providing continuously silver coins. So actually it's unconstitutional, but no one really seems to care. No more Silver Eagles. My local coin shop has no more Silver Eagles available. Okay, Lord Humongous, have a good weekend too. Yeah, fall cleaning. Okay. So I'll stay on for another 10 minutes or so. This is a long live stream here. It's the longest I've done, I think an hour and 37. So I'll take a few more questions. The other coin that I recommend, not only for Americans, but anywhere really, is the 1964 half dollar. The Kennedy half dollar is a classic, I think. And of course, I have some half dollars that are pre-64 as well. They're also 90% silver. Hey, Mumu, sleep tight. Sleep tight. Down under. He's going to bed. Mumu. Big Daddy, I'm tempted to buy more silver, but I think it's going to just keep going down. If you chart my pursuit over time, it's pretty well tracks the decline. If I stop buying, it'll probably go up. Yeah, it's called Sod's Law, isn't it? But Jeff from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jeff, nice to see you. I had a good friend from Pittsburgh at university. We used to play golf. So yeah, Kevin, I have been to Michigan twice. One of my cousins, I'm originally from Brazil. She married a guy from Michigan in the 70s. So I went there once in the 70s when I was a young, teenager or even younger. My parents we went there to see my cousin. And then I went in 1989 to see my cousin again. So I've been twice. She lived near Detroit, like I think it was Grosse Point, it was called. And now I don't know where she's living right now. I think it's near Birmingham. Michigan. Yeah, Oakmont. Oakmont. I mean that's when Jack Nicklaus beat Arnold Palmer in 1962. Great course. Oakmont, Pittsburgh. I think it was Dustin Johnson who won the last U.S. Open there at Oakmont. The northern part of Michigan is beautiful. Yeah, I've seen some. There's like a resort up northern Michigan. It's an island. Is it I forgot. It starts with the MK McKinley, or it's a really nice place. It almost looks like you're back in Victorian times. Yeah, I haven't been there. I'd love to go there. I watched a video earlier today where someone did a full stack video of 1,600 ounces. I can't imagine where I'd hide that much silver, bury it. Yeah. Northwest Prepper 6. Hi, Mara. Do you have a post office box where you receive mail from listeners? Thanks. No, I haven't. Someone's asked me about that. I might look into that. Thanks for the heads up. I'll see if I can get one here, where I live, a post office box, but I don't have one. Neil Scowcroft, if the system reset to gold and silver back system, what would the true value of gold and silver be? While some people talk about it, it depends how much they'd back it by. I think if it's by 40% of the money supply, it would be, or even some people actually argue that they will value it to cover all the loans all the debt that they owe to foreign countries. And some people, I don't know, it can range from anywhere between 10 to 20,000. I think Jim Sinclair has talked more about 50,000. But what they could do as well is they could change, create what they call a new dollar, right? And the 100 old dollars that we have now would be worth $1, but then they'd keep the price of gold where we are right now at 1,200 new dollars. So that means that gold would be like $100,000, but they would keep it at the same price. So yeah, that's the other thing as well. We could have gold at $1,000, but if 100 of today's dollars become one new dollar, and they keep the price of gold at $1,000, that means that in today's money it's worth 100,000. So actually, yeah, it depends what they do to the fiat dollar, because if they issue a new dollar that's 100 times more than the one time. I'll start again. So if you have $100 today, and next Monday, the U.S. government comes and says, for every $100 you have in the bank, you're going to get one new dollar. But they keep the price of gold at 1,200. So that means that gold is worth 120,000. So they might not change the price of gold, but they might change the price, the old dollar for a new dollar. Hope that explains it. Oh yeah, Kevin Mackinac, is that how you pronounce it? I really love that place. I've seen it a few times on the internet. It's one place I like to go to. Maybe have you been there? Why did they kill Gaddafi? Well, because he was doing the right thing for his country. I think there's a really good video about Gaddafi. Libya was the richest country in Africa as per income per capita before he was taken out, Gaddafi. Pablo, The reason the gold silver ratio is as it is because those two metals are highly manipulated. That's why. Yeah, this one of the books here that I have. Where is it? Well, I forgot. I don't know where it is right now. But Franz Pick talks about how France in the 1960s they had a lot of inflation, so they turned $100 francs into a one new franc. But that's how they can do it. And so they could keep the price of gold. Let's say the price of gold was 1,000 today, and you know, and then they do a complete. They bring out a new dollar. So as I said, if you had $100 in the bank, you would have only one new dollar. But they would keep the price of gold at 1,000. So even though price of gold hasn't changed in old dollars, in terms of new dollars, it means that it's worth 100,000 of old dollars. So I think it will protect people. Gold, I definitely think it will. Dutch NL, why does the price of bacon fluctuate? Like every other price, supply and demand. Globalists sacrifice human blood for their worship. They like Babylon and ancient Egyptians. Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of people call it the Crimex instead of the Comex. They're the same, Comex, LBMA. I mean, they're not the same, but they act very similarly. So you mean talking about gold? Yeah, I have spoken about gold, but on this live stream. But right now it's almost ending, unfortunately. So I'll take a couple of more questions and I'll call it a day. We've almost been here for a couple of hours. Alien invasion hoax. Yeah, a lot of people talk about that. I wouldn't believe it either, Gur. I think that's. I guess that would be the only thing that would unite everyone on Earth, right? To fight, this bogus enemy. Nasdaq. I haven't followed the Manafort case, so I'm sorry I can't answer that. I want to understand why countries are taking back the gold they've stored in New York. Well, basically because they don't trust the Americans. They don't trust the Federal Reserve. It could be because they don't trust them. It could be that there's a crisis coming and they want to have the gold, the physical gold, close by. And yeah, and that's why. Yeah, why would you take money away from your bank? That's the same thing, because you don't trust the bank anymore, or you want to have it closer to you. Yeah, I know the Dutch took a lot of the gold back from the Federal Reserve. Um, there's also a case in Holland. I think it was the Postal Pension Fund. They bought a lot of gold, and the central bank and the government told them to stop it. So that was interesting. Yeah, I don't follow football here or soccer last December. So anyway. All right. So thank you everyone for showing up. Calling it a day now. Yeah, I enjoyed the live stream, and I wish everyone a great rest of the weekend. I'll probably be doing a video tomorrow. And yeah, if you like to donate to the channel as well, I'll put a link below in the description when I record this video. I appreciate all the donations on Super Chat as well. And yeah, and if you're listening to my channel for the first time, make sure you subscribe and share this video as well once it's recorded and it's on my channel. Take care. Bye, everyone.